the Restaurant Operator Podcast. I'm Mandy Detwiler, editor of Pizza Marketplace and QSRweb, and I'm here today with Fred Burmer, CEO of roast beef brand Lion's Choice, based out of St. Louis. Fred, thanks so much for being with us today.
It's great to be here.
Well, let's talk a little bit about you. You've got a rich history in the restaurant industry, having worked for Emerald City Pizza and a lot for Yum Brands. Let's talk about that for a minute. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in the restaurant industry.
Yeah, like a lot of people, it wasn't an intentional path. I actually started working in a pizza restaurant in Orlando, Florida when I was in college. Started out as a dishwasher and had no intention of staying in this business. I was going to get my degree and go out and get a real job. I guess I'm still looking for that real job. I think, one of the things that I'm really proud of is kind of that history starting off, at the bottom of the bottom rungs in this industry. And it's served me well over the years, particularly, with my team, having credibility, having been there and, worked in the washing dishes, waiting tables. I did every single position in this business, including shift managers, and right on up through the ladder. So that's really served me well throughout my career.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Lion's Choice. It's a roast beef brand. And how did the brand get its start? Tell me a little bit about your origin story.
Yeah, and again, we're a local brand here in St. Louis, and I grew up in the Southeast, and so up until a year and a half ago, I wasn't familiar with the brand at all. But it started in 1967. A couple of founders, one of them, Marvin Gibbs, who's still around. He lives here in St. Louis area, and he was actually an executive with Monsanto Chemical Company, and just was looking for something for when he left that business. So didn't want to really get into competition with the burgers and pizza and sub places. So decided he'd get into the roast beef business. And there's also another roast beef competitor out there who we don't talk about. We don't use their name around here, but he wanted to do something that was different than what was happening there. So they created a brand that just uses top round roast beef. It's really butcher shop quality roast beef, sliced razor thin, that just gives it just a great flavor and texture that sets us apart. And the rest is history. It kicked off, and today we have about 30 restaurants.
Awesome. So what's the secret to the roast beef recipe? Can you give us that? Can you give us a hint?
I can. It's really very simple, and we do have proprietary ovens that we cook it. But like any recipe, it starts with the roast beef itself. It's very lean. It's top brown. In fact, one of the things I discovered is there aren't many suppliers that can even supply our roast beef to our specs, just because it's so labor intensive. With the hand, it's all hand trimmed. And then when it gets to the restaurant, it's slow roasted for at least 3 hours, usually 3 to 6 hours, in the restaurants every day. And then we have our secret seasoning that we put on the sandwich when it's made, and that's very popular.
Okay. So how does Lion's Choice ensure consistency in the quality and taste of the roast beef across all 30 locations? How do you make sure that it's the same in one area of St. Louis as it is in another?
Yeah, like any brand, that is a challenge, and it's very 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 important. The big thing is we use the same type ovens in each of the restaurants.
Okay.
It's an oven that has temperature and moisture control. In there, we cook it at the same temperature in every restaurant. Then the big thing is how it's sliced. It has to be sliced razor thin. If you don't get it sliced just razor thin, it doesn't have the same texture and the same consistency. That's probably the most difficult part to get consistent. Fortunately, I think we get it right 95% of the time. But every once in a while, if somebody says, "Hey, my sandwich was a little tough today," we know exactly what happened. We didn't get it razor thin. We cut it a little bit thick. The other thing I learned from being in this business, I've learned more about roast beef than I've ever known in my life. But even the direction that it's cut on the slicer with the grain of the meat makes a difference in the consistency. So it's that's the tricky part. But fortunately, our guys do a great job in the field of getting it right almost all the time.
Sure. Sure. Well, roast beef is obviously the star. What other items are you menuing as side dishes, desserts, appetizers, those types of things?
Yeah. Well, our fries. Our fries have been voted multiple years as the best in Missouri, not just St. Louis, but
Oh,
the best
wow.
fries in Missouri. And they really are very very good. The way that we prepare them, I think, gives us an advantage. Most places that you go to, I know for me, when you get fries, they're almost always too cold, or they're just not hot enough, or they're soggy. And one of the things that we do is we actually, first of all, they're brined. We don't salt them after the fact. They're brined before we fry them. But we'll fry them for a short amount of time, and then we'll hold them until we're ready to use them, and then we can fry them. We fry them again for like 2 minutes. And what that does is that gives us such a quick turnaround time on the fries. Most places they've got to fry them for 4.5, 5 minutes, all at once, and so they tend to hang on to their current fries a little bit longer than they should. Whereas the way our process is, our last frying takes 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, and we're replenished and ready to go. So I think that gives us a bit of a operational advantage. But they're also cut, with a little bit of skin left on them. You'll always know when you see our fries because they'll have a little bit of that brown on the outside with the where the skin's just left a little bit on them. People love them. They're great fries.
Sounds amazing. They
Yeah.
sound really good. Yeah. So, what is your leadership philosophy? And how do you inspire your team to deliver exceptional customer services every time?
Yeah, the two things, probably the biggest thing with my leadership philosophy is, and people learn this right away, is we don't stop at just, we always strive to be the best that we can be. Everything that we do, and that sounds cliche, but let me dig a little bit deeper into that. We don't just stop at, if we reach a particular goal, or we want to do the best that we can possibly do and not stop just because we're ahead of the next guy. It's kind of like a racer looking over their shoulder. I hate to see that because we just want to beat our own best all the time. And for different people, that's a different level, and even different restaurants. Some of our restaurants have a capability to run certain sales or different profitability levels. Much better than the one down the street. So just because the one down the street is excelling relative to the other restaurants, I always challenge to see if that's the best that they can possibly do. And that's I think that's probably the biggest component of my leadership style. And then the other piece is I empower our people. It's kind of hard to do, as a leader, and I'm definitely a Type A personality, and I've had to learn to do it over the years. But you know what? Empower your people to make decisions. We had a meeting with our managers and our assistant managers on December 2nd, and one of the things I talked to them about is, what, guys, when it comes to taking care of customers, you have the same authority that I have. There's no decision that I could make that you can't make when it comes to taking care of the customers. And I could tell by the body language of the team that that just was very empowering. Very, it just made them feel very energized to know that that's the case, and that I have that level of confidence in them. Now we're going to make more mistakes that way. We'll make mistakes, but I'd rather. I think the upside is much better, much better than the alternative.
Speaking of your employees, how do you foster an engaging like company culture that empowers employees to go above and beyond? How are you empowering and fostering a positive work experience and making sure that those employees are seen and heard?
Yeah. Um, a great question, Mandy. I believe that the team members, and I'm talking about the typical team members that are at the store level, their experience isn't going to be any better than the experience of their managers. And so one of the things that we like to do is certainly we want to make sure that we're listening to our managers and that they're having a good work experience. And one of the things I do is make myself very available to them. I started doing this years ago. Periodically, I'll do what I call roundtables. We'll actually go to the restaurant, small groups, 6, 7, 8 people at a time. Just sit down and it's just a conversation with Fred. What's going on? What do you like? What don't you like? You can ask anything you want, and I'm going to tell you the truth. I warn them up front. You might not like the answer, but I'm going to tell you the truth. And I think just having that level of involvement and being able to impact decisions that are being made by being able to talk with the CEO of the company, I think really enhances the experience. Again, they're not going to like every decision that I make, but I'm happy to sit down with them one-on-one or in a small group and ask me, hey, what were you thinking when you did that? And generally, they're satisfied with the logic behind it. I think I think that really helps. And what that does is that makes our managers feel like they're having a good work experience. If they like working here, their team members are going to like working here, and vice versa.
So, Lion's Choice is a legacy brand, having been around since 1967. You guys have a long and rich history in St. Louis. How do you balance tradition with innovation to stay relevant in the fast-paced restaurant industry? How are you staying relevant?
Yeah, that's been, I've been here a year and a half now, and that has been like my thoughts every day when I walk in the doors. How do we do that? Because we do have many years of tradition. One of the things that brought me here was the loyalty that our customers have. I mean, do not mess with their original Lion's Choice roast beef sandwich on a bun. So one of the things we did just this last April was we created a product called the Remix. And the name kind of says exactly what you're talking about. What we did was we took existing ingredients. And by the way, this wasn't my idea. This sandwich. This sandwich was really designed by our employees. When I asked them, hey guys, how do you keep it? I mean, you eat here every day. How do you keep the sandwich exciting? And what they did was they said, hey, I don't put it on a bun. I put it on Texas toast. I put Swiss cheese on it. When I make it. And when you take it, you taste it on that toast and all, it's a whole different sandwich, has a whole different flavor profile. Then we introduced a new sauce, which is a garlic aioli, and put that on there. So it's got 4 ounces of the roast beef. It's on the Texas toast, which is buttered and toasted. It's got 2 slices of Swiss cheese, but if you want to substitute any of our other cheeses, you can. We put garlic aioli on it, and the sandwich is a big hit. So again, we're not messing with anybody's OG sandwich, because we get in trouble for that. But we introduced this, and what it's doing is, and what it's intended to do is, number one, any customer who comes in and wants to compare our roast beef sandwich to anybody else's, you try that remix, you'll never even think about comparing it to anybody else's roast beef sandwich. So it introduces. It creates variety for our existing customers who want the variety. Number one. Number two is it's introducing us to new customers who are coming in and no longer compare us to the other guys.
Right. Right. Do you worry about that comparison? Do you worry about
Oh yeah.
people making that comparison?
Yeah, absolutely. Because first of all, we're a premium product and we're priced that way. And so if someone comes in and they're looking at our price versus the other guys, and well, that then there's going to be they're going to have concerns. But if when you let people know that number one, we're using top round, very lean roast beef that is we won't compromise on it. It's a much better quality of roast beef, and
Right.
it's gonna cost you a little bit.
So you've got 30 units now. Any expansion plans coming up? Are you all franchising?
We do have 2 franchisees right
Okay.
now with three franchise restaurants, and we get a lot of inquiries about franchising, but we're not ready to do that just yet. We still have some things that we have to polish up, I think, internally before we start licensing more people, and as well as we're in the process of redesigning our facilities right now. We think that, and a lot of brands are doing this. We think that our existing facilities, which is the same size as a McDonald's or any of the other
Right.
the chicken places right now, we don't think we need a restaurant that's that large. So we're
Okay.
redesigning it a little bit smaller. Only 25% of our customers actually eat inside, so it doesn't make sense to have seating capacity that can hold 80% of our business. We're looking at reducing the size. That way, we can reduce the cost of entry, and that we think that'll attract the type of franchisees that we really want to start building with.
Now, I guess my last question is community service. Do you all do any kind of community service or work in the community?
Yeah, we've got quite a few things going on. I know we just did something with Kurt Warner's. He does a coat drive every year. We do that. We participate with that with him with that every year. We also did Scouting for Food, which is a project we do with the Scouts. Every year we do a thing called Gift a Meal, where it's kind of sounds like you're familiar with it, but
Yeah.
we participate with Gift a Meal for quite a few years, and then we do a lot of fundraisers. I know I see these gift baskets going out of the office here several times a week, where different organizations and stuff have us put together a basket with some Lions Choice coupons and Lions Choice glasses and T-shirts and that kind of stuff, and they use that for fundraisers for schools and churches, that kind of thing.
Well, we're about out of time. Thanks so much for being with us today. This has been excellent.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, and I really appreciate your interest in our brand. And I hope you stop by one of our restaurants when you're in St. Louis.
Sounds amazing.
All
That'll
right.
do it for this episode of the Restaurant Operator Podcast, and we'll catch you next time.